So I wanted to create kind of a short instructional video to help you utilize the Next Gen Science Standards as you develop your unit plan. So hopefully you have gone through these resources to help you understand the Next Generation Science Standards and how their website is set up and what the expectations are for students when it comes to science education. We're no longer just talking about learning science content. We're also really talking about what it means to think and act like a real scientist. So that includes certain skills, that includes some cross-cutting concepts and big themes that we see throughout any area of science. So when you look at the Next Gen Science Standards, it is very overwhelming. There's a lot of information on that site, and hopefully you did the, when you do the scavenger hunt, you're going to see somewhat how it's set up, but even that just touches on what is on that site. Also take a look at the Wisconsin State Standards because those were developed off of the NGSS and they're very similar. A couple of these resources are going to be super helpful when it comes to planning your unit plan. So for example, this document, the 3 dimensions. In the blue, we have the science and engineering practices, which are all the skills. There are 8 different skills that students need to develop, and they're scaffolded throughout the performance expectations from kindergarten all the way up through 12th grade. So you want to probably read through some of these and become familiar, especially if they show up in the performance expectation that you're going to use for your unit plan. The orange is the disciplinary core ideas, and this is the content. This is what we've been used to as far as science goes, teaching just the content. And you will see that they're organized by physical science, life science, earth and space science, and then the engineering. These are kind of the STEM standards. And then finally in green, you have the cross-cutting concepts. Those are going to be the skills, the big ideas, the themes. And you can see those almost in any area of science. So patterns or systems can come up anywhere at any grade level. And just helping students see how all science is kind of interconnected and related. Another good document is this one. It gives a nice general explanation of the Next Gen, but then it gives a nice cheat sheet of how to read the standards. So I know this looks overwhelming, but if you are looking at a performance expectation and you're not sure what is what, this is kind of a good reference document to figure that out. So what I did is I searched middle school astronomy standards. And this is just one, Earth's place in the universe. So under this, we have 4, these are called performance expectations. Performance expectations are the standards. So these are 4 different standards that fall under Earth's place in the universe. Now, if I'm developing a unit plan for this class, I would pick one. Let's say this one. In 3 to 5 lessons, there's no way you can cover all of these and students would show proficiency in all of these. Even 3 to 5 days is going to be kind of a limited amount of time for this particular performance expectation. So it says develop and use a model of the Earth, Sun, Moon system to describe the cyclic pattern of lunar phases, eclipses of the sun and moon, and seasons. Now, for this class, I would just pick one of these things, like seasons, and I would develop my lessons around the seasons. Notice that when you hover over different parts, it will give you more of an in-depth explanation to kind of help you unpack the standard or the performance expectation. Down below, we have the breakdown of the 3 dimensions that come under these performance expectations. But even this one, here it is, develop and use a model. That is the science and engineering practice that this performance expectation is going to be hitting. So when I develop my assessments, it should be around the skill of developing and using a model. So make sure your assessments match the skill that is highlighted in the performance expectation. I wouldn't be giving a multiple choice test when the skill is to develop and use a model. So I might have, if I wanted it on paper, I might have students developing a diagram to explain and show the cyclic pattern of the seasons. I might have them develop an actual 3D model. So make sure you understand what the standard is showing. In the red, make sure you take a look because it does give you some more clarifying statements, assessment boundaries, what you should include, what you should not include, because sometimes as teachers we try to do everything, and it's important that you don't, because a lot of times some of this is going to be scaffolded and it'll come up later on in a higher grade, and so you want to make sure you stick to the assessment boundaries that are indicated. Then down below we have the connections box. What's nice about this is here are the Common Core ELA standards that connect to this and the math standards. So in your unit plan, you are required to do some interdisciplinary instruction. You could use this to help you. You could do some connections to literacy, some connections to math. With develop and use a model, you could possibly do some connections to, let's say, art. So make sure in your unit plan you indicate where those connections are. Show me, write it out, highlight it, explain where those interdisciplinary connections are. You also need to indicate in your unit plans the 3 parts of the NGSS. So please make sure you show when the instruction involves hitting the science and engineering practices. So when the students are actually developing and using models in your lessons, indicate that. Indicate that as one of the science and engineering practices. Maybe use blue to show that that's what it is. When your instruction or lesson deals with the disciplinary core ideas, the content, indicate that. When you are instructing or showing a connection across cutting concepts, let's say with the seasons, it would be patterns. Indicate that. So be very explicit in your lesson plans of showing the required components and indicating where they are. You also need to show the 5E model of inquiry. Now the 5E model, you're not going to have that in every single lesson plan most likely, but it should span over the course of your unit plan. So if the first day you have a super engaging hook, that might be the engage part of the 5E. Indicate that. Actually put right down, maybe in parentheses, engage. So show me where in your lesson sequence you have all the components of the 5E model so that I can see you understand how to implement the 5E model of inquiry. Another part on this NGSS site that is very useful are the evidence statements. The evidence statements give you some more clarification when you're developing your lessons. So if I'm going to do the first performance expectation as my unit plan, if I click on the evidence statement, again, it gives me just that performance expectation. It gives me just the science and engineering practices, the disciplinary core ideas, and the cross-cutting concepts that go with that. And then observable features of student performance by the end of this. So this will give you some parameters of what the students should be learning and be able to do if they are proficient in that standard. So this gives some more clarification. So these evidence statements are very helpful when you are planning your lessons. So if I was going to do the seasons, I would be looking at this to make sure that these are things that I have in my lessons. So the performance expectations are super helpful. So I'm hoping that this instructional video helps you as you prepare your unit plan. I will put together some sites that you can look at to find pre-existing lessons and get some ideas. Just know that lessons that are out there often are not connected to NGSS. So you're going to probably use bits and pieces of activities and make those connections to the NGSS performance expectation. I would not just take a lesson plan off the internet and use it as is. You're really going to have to take parts of it, develop as your own so that you meet the criteria on the rubric. And again, you can always ask me questions if you have any problems. So good luck searching and starting to develop your unit plan. Please reach out if you have questions. I can always help you via Google Meet or email, whatever is helpful for you.